Hey friends, it's Judy Clock, your independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator here in Middletown, Virginia, and I'm coming to you tonight for another video tutorial, and I'm still featuring the beautiful Perfectly Pairs bundle, which I'll be using for my August workshop. That registration is now open, and I will leave my Beacons link down below if you'd like to register for it. I offer both virtual and in-person workshops. But tonight I'm coming to you to show you 3 really simple cards made using our gorgeous two-tone cardstock. This cardstock is currently on sale. It's 20% off. So you can actually get a light and a dark side to each color. So we're going to do one where we're just going to crinkle it up and use that as like a foil for our little sentiment with that beautiful Perfectly Pair Designer Series paper. Then we've got another one where we're actually going to emboss the two-tone cardstock, and we're going to sand it a little bit because our two-tone cardstock has that white core, so that brings out a little bit of that white core in our cardstock. And then we're going to just do a very simple tearing technique, and as you can see that lovely white core in our torn cardstock. And again, all of these feature that gorgeous Perfectly Pair stamp set. So let's go ahead and get started. So our first card is going to be very simple. We're just going to stamp a sentiment on a piece of basic white. We're going to stamp congratulations using our Secret C. And this is quickly becoming one of my favorite colors. Let me just kind of bring this down a little bit so that you can get a better feel for what's on the desk. Maybe see a little bit better. There we go. Sometimes they zoom out and sometimes they zoom in. All right, we're going to stamp our congratulations. Very simple. Then we're going to use, close up my inks. As you can see, I've already stuck my finger in the ink pad once tonight. So let's not have that happen again. Let's close up our ink pads. So we're going to use the long skinny label from our stamp set. That's going to go right over that. I just can't even pick it up. I'm going to just put that over that. We're going to run it through our Stampin' Cut and Emboss, and we're going to end up with this pretty little label. Because I am getting this done so late today, I did kind of do some steps ahead of time just to save myself, a little bit of time. All right. And as always, all the measurements will be in the corresponding blog post. At this point, this blog post will be up tomorrow, Friday, July 11th. So our card base is going to be Secret C, standard 8.5, 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. I'm going to put in a piece of our basic white. It is 4 by 5 1/4. I'm going to hope, I'm kind of getting to the end. So sometimes when it gets to the end, it gets a little temperamental, but we'll see. Hopefully it'll work all right today. I'm just going to go ahead and put that in there. Now we have our beautiful Designer Series paper. We're just going to let that kind of shine. I'm going to cut a piece of the ribbon. This is the Mossy Meadow gold ribbon. I want to cut about, 5 inches. And again, on our grid paper, there is a little ruler down at the bottom of it. There's also a ruler at the top of it. But as you can see, let me bring this up. There's a ruler down here at the bottom, and that's what I use to measure. So I want to put some Stampin' Seal on the back. Okay, I'm going to put this on one side. Now you can either have the green side up or the gold side up. I'm going to go with the green side up. Oh, Emma's came down to see me. Emma very rarely comes down here when I'm down here. That's my German Shepherd, but she decided to come down and hang with me tonight. Right? And I'm just going to make sure that it's relatively straight. That looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and put that on our card front. I'm just going to add some more Stampin' Seal. And I prefer the Stampin' Seal Plus. I think it goes on easier and I think it holds stronger. Just my personal opinion. I seem to just really have trouble with regular Stampin' Seal, but the Plus is not a problem. Now I've got here a piece of our beautiful two-tone cardstock. This is Darling Duckling, and you'll see one side is a little bit darker than the other, and that is the beauty of the two-tone cardstock. And we just want to crumple this piece of cardstock up. So we just want to make it as wrinkly as we possibly can. Okay, because that's half the fun of it. And then we're gonna straighten it out. Maybe if you don't like how it wrinkles, if you want to wrinkle it some more, you can. Go there a little bit. I want to do this one a little bit more. And then you can decide if you want to put your light side up or your dark side up. On my sample card, I put the dark side up. So I think on this card, we'll go ahead and put the light side up so we can see the difference. So because I did crinkle it, I am going to use a little bit of liquid glue to adhere this to my card front. This one might be empty. Let me go get my other one. I knew I was getting close to the end. But now yeah, this one's good. Maybe. Okay, there we go. And here comes Trooper, my chocolate lab. Everybody's coming down to hang out with Mom while she's taping her video. All right, I'm just going to add that there. And I'm going to add some mini Stampin' Dimensionals on the back of my congratulations, because it is pretty skinny. So I'm just going to add some minis, maybe like 3 or 4. Oops, that one didn't want to come up. Maybe 4, because it's long. And these are little, and we don't want it to bow or buckle. So, and we're just going to put that right in the middle of our sentiment. And we'll finish it off with some of our low profile sparkle dots. And I think I'm going to use the darker ones down here, the Secret C ones. I was going to say, I know I had my pick tool somewhere. Right, let's use a maybe. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. All right, let's go to the other end. Let's go to the pointy end. And let's use 2 little ones. These just do not want to come up tonight. They don't want to be doing this and helping me out here. And we'll put one there. And that is our first card, using our two-tone cardstock and just crumpling it up. So we use, like I said, I used the darker side here and the lighter side there. Can you see the difference? It's kind of hard, but you can see the difference, I think. Okay. Next, this is a fun technique. I'm excited for this one. So I have here, let me move some of this stuff out of our way. We don't need all of this in our way. Okay, we've got our old olive base. I've got a piece of basic white for the inside. I've got a piece of Darling Duckling. And to the Darling Duckling, this is our Secret C two-tone cardstock. Now, I have already embossed this with the Damask embossing folder. So now I have here just like a nail file that I want to use, and I'm going to run this over. I'm going to move that stuff out of the way. I'm going to run this over my two-tone cardstock. Now, do you see how it's bringing out some of the white? I'm just lightly, this one I'm trying to go just one direction because I don't want to rip it, but I'm just lightly brushing this over it. And look at how that kind of exposed some of that pretty white core. All right, let's go ahead and finish up our card. So on the inside, I'm going to stamp, and I'm using the Secret C again, just because I am in love with this color. And we're going to stamp. A good friend is a gift. Just going to kind of stamp that there. All right, and that's it for the inside. And now we're going to go ahead and add this to our card base. And this is a standard layer, 5 1/4 by 4. Again, standard A2, 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. Okay. Now, on our front, I've got our two-tone cardstock. This is 1.5 by 5.5. And I've got here a piece of Darling Duckling that is 1 3/4 by 5.5. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add some liquid glue. And of course, I pick the one that's almost empty. Okay. And I'm going to just add some liquid glue. And we're going to glue that down to our Darling Duckling cardstock. Now, let's see. This is just a tad, just a little tiny skosh longer. So I'm just going to take my paper snips and trim it. There we go. A little better. And we're going to add this to our card front along the left, maybe, I don't know, a 1/2 inch from the folded edge. Again, it's really whatever you prefer. There's no right or wrong way to do that, just however you like it. All right, we're going to add that. I have here a piece of our Perfectly Pears. I guess Painterly Pears is the designer series paper. This is 2 inches by 3.5. So this is 2 1/4 by 3 3/4. And we're just, excuse me, going to go ahead and add that to our card front. Layer these up. And again, sometimes you don't have to go crazy with a lot of embellishment. Sometimes just using different sizes and different designer series paper really just gives your card all the pizzazz it needs. That's a little bit not centered right. And then I have a piece of, this is very vanilla. Sorry, I had to think for a minute. I punched this out with the 2 3/8 of an inch circle punch, just because I wanted a little element there. I didn't want a very big element. So I did that. And again, I'm going to stamp the smaller pairs, the double pairs in Secret-C, but I'm going to stamp it off first. And then I'm going to stamp it onto my circle. And then I'm going to close it up because I make a mess. And then I'm going to come in here with our old olive. And again, we have our double pairs image, the solid image. I am going to stamp off, and then I'm going to stamp it right inside my pairs. Okay. We're going to need that again, but I'm going to close it just for now, just because. All right, I want to use our Darling Duckling, just like I did last week. Excuse me, I'm layering my colors in there to hopefully make the pairs look a little bit more realistic. All right, I just love this set. I just love this set. I'm going to stamp that right there. Now we have this little, like, scattered dots image. I'm going to come in and I want to use a little bit of pink, but I'm going to stamp off. I don't want it to be very big. I'm just going to add some little dots of color. It's very light. You can barely see them, but I know they're there. I'm just going to add some there. And again, that's just going to give it that little, like, speckled look. Now, there is no fill-in stamp for these leaves, so I didn't want to leave them plain. So I have here in my little cover, like a little well of color. I'm going to pick some up with our blender pen, and as I said last week, this has like magic fluid in it, and I'm just going to lightly paint or color in our leaves using the color that I picked up. Now, the more we use it, the lighter the leaves will get. So you can go ahead and pick up more color whenever you want, and just then you can kind of add some shadows to your leaves. Sometimes I just kind of dot it on my scrap paper because I don't want to have like a big clump of color, kind of like I did there. Just keep going, and we're just going to color those leaves. Okay, we got one more leaf to color. But doesn't that look a little bit better, don't you think? Having those leaves colored. And of course, I don't want to leave my stems uncovered. So I've got some early espresso here. Again, I've got some color up in the well of the cover. Just kind of make sure you clean off your blending brush in between, your blender pen in between. And I'm just going to add just a little bit of this early espresso to the, like the branches or the twigs. Okay, and that's it. That's it. Those are our pears, our little pears. All right, that is it for that. Now we are going to add some ribbon. So I need for this probably about 10 inches of ribbon, somewhere between 10 and 12, 11, somewhere around there. Okay, and I'm just going to cut it. All right. Now I'm going to flip this over, and I want to put some adhesive on the upper, like left side, so like right there where my finger is. I want to add some Stampin' Seal because that's where I'm going to put my ribbon. So I'm not going to, and I want to use the gold side on this one because I have old olive, so I thought the gold side would look a little bit better. I'm kind of making like a figure 8 with it, but I'm not tying it. I'm just kind of laying it, like just letting it kind of rest there. And then I'm going to come here and I'm going to stick this right where I have that glue, that up there a little bit. See, now I want that other loop to show. This is the part where it gets a little bit, you get a little nutty because you got to make sure that you have everything showing the way you want before you press it down. And I did not do that. So we're going to go back and fix it because we can. Okay. Now, there's that. I want to make sure. I'm trying to think. I think I did it like that. There we go. Put that over there. Okay. Okay, so not great, but that'll work for this. I have just a little tiny bit coming out of there. Now I want to add some dimensionals. I'm going to add some dimensionals to this so we can pop it up. Actually, I can make this one just a little bit longer. I ruined the whole thing now because I just moved everything, but it'll still work. Maybe it'll still work. Yes, that's better. I feel better now. Not that anybody would ever know, but I know. And I'm going to put this one, it's going to be a little bit on the ribbons and a little bit off. All right, so now we can take these off. And we're going to add this to our card front. Okay. Put that there. And then we're going to add some more of our dots. And I'm going to use the yellow ones. I'm not even going to bother playing with that other end. Ooh, look at that. It came undone. All right. We put like 2 up here. And then we'll put 1. Nope. Come on. Come on. We'll put 1 down there. Right there. And that is our second card using that beautiful two-tone cardstock. And again, it's on sale for 20% off. And so now we have two different techniques that we've done. We've done the crumple technique and we've done the sanding technique to expose some of that white core. Now let's do our ripping technique. This, I think, is the card I like the best. So I have here again a piece of our Secret C. Standard card base. I'm going to put a blank piece on the inside. I've got a piece of our Darling Duckling. This is 5 1/4 by 4. Piece of our Painted Pears Designer Series paper that is 5 by 3 3/4. And then I've got a piece of our two-toned cardstock. This is Old Olive, and I am just going to rip it. Now I want to rip it so that the towards me, because that will expose the white core. Okay. So I've got one. Now I'm going to use, this is the lighter side. That's the darker side. I'm going to do this again over here. I'll do it this way, flip it around. Right? Right? That's right. Okay. Okay. Now I want to put the darker color on the bottom, the lighter color in the middle, and the darker color on top. See how that goes? So now I'm just going to add some liquid glue. Maybe we'll add some liquid glue. Maybe we won't. Right? I'm just going to kind of stack up my colors. And it doesn't matter how, like you can have as much or as little showing as you want. So it doesn't matter when you rip it. Just put it on there so that you like it. And then I'm going to add some more liquid glue to the back of this one. Okay. This one showing. Okay. There we go. That is our little stack. This is a little bit crooked. Okay. And then we're going to add this to our card front. Oh, did I cut that wrong? No. Did I cut? Yes, I did. You know what? I cut this wrong. Hold on. Let me trim this down. This should have been to 3 3/4. I forgot. I forgot. Which is good because this side was a little, that was a little off. So that's perfect. Okay, so now we're going to adhere this to our Painterly Pears Designer Series paper. And for this, I'm just going to use a little stamp and seal. Okay. And again, I want to make sure that I get my edges even. I'm going to kind of use my tape, and that's not even working. That didn't even work. Let's try it like this. Try the old-fashioned eyeball method. All right. Let's going to add this to our darling duckling. All right. Right, we're going to add our basic white to the inside, and I promise we will do some stamping. I just have to go get another piece of basic white. I thought I had a scrap piece on my desk, but I do. That's right there. Okay. I could say I thought I had a piece. All right. And then we're going to go ahead and add this to our card front. And then once we get that all together, I'm kind of doing things out of order. I get it. But sometimes I just like to get the pieces, the majority of the pieces out of the way, so there is less clutter on my desk. Now I can focus on my stamping and my die cutting. Put that off to the side. So again, I'm going to stamp the outline of the large, excuse me, the large pear in soft sea foam, which I seem to have lost. And it was literally just here. There it is. Like it was literally just here. So I have the large pear outline. I'm going to stamp it. I'm going to stamp it off. I'm going to stamp it right there. Okay. And I'm also going to stamp the leaf image in the the Secret Sea. I call it soft sea foam, Secret Sea. I'm going to stamp that. Again, I've stamped it off, so it's a much lighter color than it would if I used it full strength. Okay, now I'm going to come in here with the old olive. And again, I'm going to stamp this off. I think I might stamp it off twice so that I get a very light green on there. Okay, and while we have our green out, we're going to stamp the fill-in leaf shape. And this I'm going to stamp full strength. Okay. Yep. And make sure that's somewhat even. There we go. And now I'm going to quickly clean my my fill-in pair. And we're going to take our darling duckling. And again, I'm going to stamp this full strength right inside my pear. Okay, and then I'm going to take our petal pink again, but this time I have a sponge dauber. And I'm going to pick up a little bit of color. Can you see I'm picking up a little bit of color on my sponge dauber? I don't know why I left that open. That's an accident waiting to happen. What was that for a minute? And I'm just going to, I want to take off some of that color. I don't want a lot of color on there. So I'm just going to kind of run it on my scrap paper. And I'm just going to kind of gently put some pink circles, kind of where those white spots were, more towards the left side of my pear. Just give it the slight little blush of color that you sometimes see on your pears. Okay, now we would take our matching dies and we would cut them out. And we would end up with these two pieces. So let's get that out of the way. I'm going to add a little bit of glue right up here. And we're going to stick our leaves right there. Okay, now we're ready to finish our card. So I have two of our pears. This one is going to be flat to our card. Okay, and you might want to put them on like a little bit of an angle. It's up to you. And again, this one I'm going to use some liquid glue. The paper has two sides. I had a mistake on one side and I just stamped on the other side and cut it out and good as new. Okay, so we've got that. This one I'm going to pop up on dimensionals. You can see I had an argument with the ink pad. Okay, make sure you put them on those leaves too, because you don't want those leaves to droop. So there you go. Okay, we've got our other pair. Now I'm going to I die cut some of these little flowers out of petal pink, but I backed them with an adhesive sheet first. We're going to add those, but first we're going to stamp thanks, and we're going to stamp that in Secret C, and we're going to stamp that right on our green cardstock. Okay, we don't need to do anything else, no fancy labels. Just going to stamp that right there. Well, just a little thank you. All right, now we're just going to sprinkle these little flowers around. Just going to take off our adhesive sheet. And just put these wherever you want. And cluster them in groups of 2 or 3. It's up to you. Have a couple of singles in there if you want. All right, but these definitely call for adhesive sheets. It just makes it so much easier for these little tiny pieces rather than trying to get that liquid glue on there. Even if you had the needle nose glue bottle, it's for me at least, it's a recipe for disaster. I'm just going to end up getting glue everywhere. So I prefer to use the adhesive sheets for all of these little tiny pieces. Now on my sample card, I did add the tiny rhinestones to the center of my flowers. After I put them on, I didn't really like it, so I'm going to leave them off this card. But those are the 3 cards that we're going to make. So again, 3 different techniques. We did with our two-tone cardstock. We did the crumpled paper effect. We did the torn edge effect, and we did the embossed and sanded effect. So I hope that you like these. Let me come up a little higher so you can see all of them. Again, I hope that you like these techniques. I hope you'll give them a try. And like I said, right now, until tomorrow, you only have until tomorrow to get 20% off of that gorgeous two-tone cardstock. That's it for me tonight, everyone. Have a great night. I will be back next week. Bye now.